Hi, welcome back. So we are at the classes outline. Basically, class provide means of building data and functionality together. Creating a new class, it means that you create a new type, allowing a new instance of that type to be made. And each class instance can actually have its own attribute attached to it for maintaining its state. Let's assume that I'm going to create a function, just I would say, and I would like to interact with the scope test. So basically what I would do, maybe I would just like say scope test, not going to do anything yet. Now then print, I would say, for example, variable scope. So if you run this, you would run into an error. And what is the error? Obviously, it is a name error saying that this variable scope is not defined at all. And it is fair enough to understand that variable scope is only recognized inside the scope test. How about inside the defined scope test, I'm going to define another function, do local, just like so. Now I'm going to define a function. I will say do non-local. And inside this function, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a non-local variable, which is the same, the var scope. So one more time, what I have done, I just created this non-local, and inside it, I use the keyword non-local to assign a value to the var scope. Now I'm still dealing all with the var scope. Okay. Now, if I would have to run this inside and says, well, the value of the variable Python is in the do non-local function. So basically, the do non-local function, by defining something called non-local variable, has actually essentially solved the problem by making the assignment of this var scope to be non-locally recognized. It means just within the scope of this scope test. Now, if I would have to get back to my essential example, I am in the global level, I'm outside, and I'm saying, okay, I want to print this variable scope, and I ran this like that, I will get back to the same error that this variable scope is not defined. I could create another function. I will say, for example, global, and basically I'm going to define a global variable. So I'm using the keyword global, and the same, I will give it a name var scope. Watch carefully what would happen if I ran this one more time, but don't forget I have to run the function do global in the scope of do test anyway. Any position doesn't really matter. Do global function. I ran this. I think the problem is over. And watch carefully what happened now. This var scope now, it has a value, so I can just use it. And how did I get this value? It's been assigned to be from the scope test, which is scope test actually ran or defined a value for this local variable, which we call it the variable scope. So do global, using the keyword global, it assign a value in the namespace concept to this variable called var scope, and it make it available for global use. The non-local keyword, it make it available for the scope within the function inside, and nothing to do with the global level. And finally, the local one, it only print what is locally been defined. For example, local function, the first one that we created, does nothing. Just I print here. You could see now the printing of this function, the value will be only from the do local, because I am locally operating within this function. Based on this knowledge, we'll start to build up now to have the first look at classes. I will see you then.